Hello, it's Regina. Welcome back to my haunted library. Today I'm going to share with you a horror haul that I got from my local secondhand bookstore. But before I do, I wanted to thank Hey Little Thrifter, a wonderful booktube channel who gave me a nice shout out. I really appreciate it. She just reached 1,000 subs and she has an amazing channel and an incredible collection of 80s style paperbacks from hell that I love. So I'm going to link her channel below. And if you don't know it, check it out. It's really great. So let's take a look at my local secondhand bookstore and we're going to cut to that right now.
That's how big an elephant is, but this is how big this dinosaur would have been. And there, that's called a Gigantosaurus Diplodocus.
Scary stories.
Come here.
Goosebumps. Oh, look, it's a pop-up book.
Oh, the Gallimimus.
Neat. Even if I have to crouch down between two stacks, it's at least nice that there is a horror section in a bookstore. That's a rarity these days, unfortunately. And not only did I get to catch up with some friends, but I also got an incredible amount of horror books that I'm very excited to share with you. So let's start with this one. So this one is called Dialing the Wind by Charles L. Grant. I have no idea what this is about. I just fell in love with the cover. It looks like fall. So I think I'm going to stray from my TBR, surprise, surprise, and read this next because it's short and I don't know, I'm seduced by this cover. Let's take a look at this book. Stephen King has a little blurb on the front that says, one of the premier horror writers of any generation. And this came out in 1989. Night in Oxford Station. From the dark porch of a lightless house, the music rises, seeking those listeners desperate for love. For only they will hear the hidden secrets of the very special song. 4 people are trapped by their innermost desires in an unbreakable, deadly web of terror. Their souls bound fast by unearthly music and the sighing, hollow wind. I'm still not that enlightened after reading that, but this looks good. Next, I found a nice copy of Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This is the copy with the cat on the front. This paperback version came out in 1983. It's been a long time since I read Pet Sematary, but I saw this and I'm like, I'm going to read it again. I have a lot of Stephen King back there. Most people do, but this one is fun. And just as a little trivia, a guy I went to college with plays the ghost that gets hit by the bus. His name's Brad. And he was a few years ahead of me, but he kind of went on to fame and fortune with that movie and some other good films that he did. Anyway, that's Pet Sematary, and I was really happy to find that. Here's another Stephen King book that I've never heard of, The Eyes of the Dragon. It's like a fantasy book, and it has some really beautiful illustrations in it. I know Stephen King has written so much, it's impossible to read all of it. I mean, you could read all of it, but you would probably read nothing else. This came out, this paperback version came out in '88. An adventure fantasy among King's most accomplished works. Dungeons, dragons, demonic forces, and the darkest depths of fear as Stephen King does it to you again. I'm going to read this because I'm very curious about this book. If anyone else, sorry my glasses send my light meter into like craziness. If anyone else knows about this book, please comment below. I'm very curious. Next, here's a fun paperback from hell that I've never heard of, but it has the die-cut cover that we love. This is called Billy by Whitley Strieber. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. New York Times bestselling author. An amazing, gripping book, a knockout, says Peter Straub. And terrifying, heart-pounding suspense, says Mary Higgins Clark. So it's called Billy, and it's a fence with the light on it and a little hand coming through. And then when you open it, it's just a chair with a little boy's baseball uniform and a bat and then some like looming shadow. One of the most accomplished, unnerving thrillers in years. Oliver Stone says, an enthralling, heroic tale. William S. Burroughs says, A superb tour de force of suspense. Okay, this is coming from some pretty renowned people here. Lots of great reviews. This came out in 1990. This looks like one of the rare paperbacks from hell that actually might be kind of good. Sorry, I get a little bitter when I read. I keep trying to read these books and they're so bad. All right, so this one is Robin Cook. There were a bunch of Robin Cook books. Not cookbooks, but books written by Robin Cook at this particular bookstore. I just thought this illustration on the front was too cool to resist. Yeah, I'd like to check out this writer. It's a medical mystery, is what this is. Not really horror. I was really thrilled to get this because it's a nice hardback cover with a dust jacket. This is called The Blackstone Chronicles by John Saul. Now, I haven't read a John Saul book since high school when I read all those, what were they, Suffer the Children? That was kind of like a V.C. Andrews series, really, really good and sleazy. But this looked pretty interesting. The best-selling serial novel in one volume. Ever since I wrote my first novel, The Master of Horror. Does Stephen King know that he's called that? I don't know. The Master of Horror, John Saul says, I have been living with the fictional town of Blackstone in my head. This looks really good. This looks right up my alley. It looks gothic. It looks fun. And yeah. I mean, I've got so many great books now to read. This was when I was standing at the counter, I saw this, but they had a bunch of graphic novels. This one's called Ghosted. They had the second volume there too, which I might go back and buy if I enjoy this one, which I'm hoping I do. I know nothing about this, but it's called The Haunted Heist. I'm always open for new, cool graphic novels. So last, but certainly not least, is the piece de resistance to my haul, and that is this amazing book called The Dark Descent. 1987, edited by David G. Hartwell. I read the introduction last night. It was really good. The book is separated into 3 different parts, different themes: the color of evil, the Medusa in the shield, and a fabulous formless darkness. There's work by Flannery O'Connor, Ramsey Campbell, Henry James, D.H. Lawrence, Faulkner, Lovecraft, Dickens, Joyce Carol Oates, just a mix of classic authors and more contemporary. And it's a big book. I started actually reading it last night. This is going to be by my bedside starting now, all winter. And even if I can read a short story a night before I go to bed, that's really cool. I read the introduction and I read the first story in the anthology is The Reach by Stephen King. And I had never read that short story and it was so good. I'm in the mood to read, I think, some more literary stories. It's fun to read the paperbacks from hell. It's fun to read the trash, but I was a literature major in college and in graduate school, so I appreciate the more literary short stories. And of course, horror began with the short story with Poe and Lovecraft and Hawthorne. So I'm really looking forward to reading this, and it was so great that I found this book. So thanks for joining me in my haunted library, and I'll see you soon. Bye.